Hello and welcome to Into the 99, where we have 99 cards because Commander's number one. I'm your hostess, Lotus, for another episode of Brewing It Live. This is episode 9, and as you see, we've had upgrades. So
Yeah, we have.
there's Han,
Hi.
and I'm Lotus. And we're doing another special edition because we're actually brewing for one of our Discord members, Ashen. They wanted us to brew Ulrich, and they have the deck themselves, but wanted to see how we would do. And I'm up for a challenge. Are you?
Yeah, I'm down for a challenge all the time.
I just that smile on my face already tells me that you have some evil cards planned for this deck.
No. Me?
Of course you.
This one?
So Ulrich of the Krallenhorde is 3 red green for a legendary creature human werewolf. So for a 4/4, we have whenever this creature enters the battlefield or transforms into Ulrich of the Krallenhorde, target creature gets +4/+4 to end a turn. At the beginning of each upkeep, if no spells were cast in the last turn, transform it. And on the other side, we have a 6/6 werewolf. Whenever this creature transforms into Ulrich the Uncontested Alpha, you may have it fight target non-werewolf creature you don't control. And again, at the beginning of each upkeep, if a player casts 2 or more spells last turn, transform it back. It's a very unique
Yep.
mechanic on that one.
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of these werewolf cards we'll see them get flip and have both sides of it as an aspect of how it goes.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
uh, yeah, most of the wolf and werewolves that I've seen come through as I was doing some research for this was pretty much up that alley. Hello, Sega Genesis 91 and Ashen. What route was your LGS suggesting?
If it's
Well, someone at your LGS.
so, for anyone that's
But
new, before we go further, if you don't know what we're doing, we're brewing this deck live on stream, but it's not just me and Han. It's with you guys too in chat. Look at this, I get to interact with you. So,
yeah,
Mass LD.
no mass land destruction here. I can promise you that.
I don't think I have a single card that destroys a land. So, where do you want to start?
I mean, it's entirely up to you. One of the things that I really liked as I was searching this deck up though was Hall of the Bandit Lord as far as a land. Um, yeah, we liked giving creatures haste in this deck, as far as on my side of things.
Yeah. So if we're going to do land as the main thing, we were
Mm-hmm.
instructed that it was supposed to be a werewolf wolf tribal deck. So
Yep,
Kessig Wolf Run, I think, would be another fitting land.
flavorful, absolutely. I liked it quite a bit as well.
Did you have any other lands that you might see fit?
So I liked Shinka, the Blood-Soaked Keep. So legendary land, it taps to add a red to your mana pool, but you can also pay 1 red and tap, and a target legendary creature gains first strike until end of turn. So, yeah, anybody trying to stop Ulrich, you have that in your back pocket at any given point. Figured I'd throw that in there. It would be at least a nice little head nod towards Kamigawa for you.
Yeah.
Uh, Ashen says Wolf Run is good. Sega Genesis, I quit if someone in my group did that. Yeah, mass land destruction is not exactly the nicest thing. Arena would be one. I know as far as a land, I believe Arena.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember how it reads off the top of my head. Let me look it up real quick.
3 and tap. Tap target creature you control and target creature of an opponent's choice they control. Each of those creatures deals damage equal to its power to the other.
Hmm. I think that's not the one I'm thinking of, but that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I quite like the idea of Arena though. But what? So you said you had a decent bit of fight in here.
I was looking at that mechanic as one of the main ways of removing some pesky threats. So
Okay.
I was going down the route that we should be running things like Savage Smash, basic typical fight, but it gives them +2/+2. Then you've got things like Epic Confrontation, gets +1/+2, and it fights. How did you see the deck going?
Well, bouncing off of yours, if that's the route we go, I think that we need to add a rite of passage. This is a really beloved card in my Naeth deck, which we might get to in a second as well, although Naeth is not a werewolf. Rite of Passage is an enchantment, 2 and a green, for whenever a creature you control is dealt damage, put a 1/1 counter on it.
Ah, okay. So if we're going to go down that route, forgive me for it not being a werewolf. If we go for Vigor, or Vigor, I'm always told off for pronouncing it wrong. So Vigor says if damage would be dealt to another creature you control, prevent the damage and put a +1 counter on that creature for each 1 damage prevented that way. Plus,
Yep,
when
absolutely.
Vigor goes to the graveyard from anywhere, you can shuffle it back into the library. As I say, we can do a lot of fighting. With Rite of Passage and Vigor, our creatures are just going to keep getting bigger.
Right. Ashen is saying that, so for Han and chat's sake, when Ashen plays Ulrich, it often dies after a wrath. It builds up nicely, but struggles to rebuild. So I think Ashen goes on to say it doesn't have to be 100% wolf and werewolves. There's a couple of non-wolves like Master of the Wild Hunt and Naeth at the moment. So yeah, I mean, that's one of my suggestions. Absolutely, if we're not doing everything wolves,
Okay.
and just a couple of other ones, I'm totally down to put Naeth of the Dire Hunt in.
Naeth of the Dire Hunt.
Fantastic legendary creature. I have it as a commander in one of my decks. 2 and 2 green for a legendary human warrior, 3/3 stat line. Whenever one or more creatures you control fight or become blocked, you draw a card. So this will get your engine going as far as a draw effect as well
Yep.
when Naeth is out. And at the beginning of combat on your turn, you may pay 2 and Hybrid Gruel. If you do, double target creature's power until the end of turn. That creature must be blocked this combat if able, meaning that
Nice.
as it becomes blocked, you draw a card. And
Okay.
if you have Rite of Passage out, you will also get a +1/+1 counter on that creature.
Okay, that seems good. I'm a little bit focused on one thing that Ashen just said there, is that they're having problems with board wipes and being reset. Now,
Right.
I wasn't expecting to bring this up so soon into the deck building, but seeing as that's going to be one of the biggest problem Ashen faces, I may have a couple of cards to prevent such an occasion. So the first one is good old faithful heroic intervention. Nothing like
Okay.
everything getting indestructible to stop you from a board wipe. Plus, it gives you the hexproof if you need it.
Sure.
Okay. We have a new one, which is why not just stop the destruction spell by countering it straight away with Tybalt's Trickery? We can just counter any board wipe that's thrown at us with that spell. They might get some value off it, but I think saving our board is more valuable than what they'll get.
So we're talking about damnations and wrath of gods and other
Exactly.
effects of that nature where we can't really counter it otherwise. Okay.
And I have a third one up my sleeve. So the third
Sure.
one, I was actually very proud of myself for finding this. And this one is called Resuscitate.
Resuscitate. Okay.
Resuscitate is an instant for 1 and a green, and it reads, until end of turn, each creature you control gains, pay a generic, regenerate this creature.
Yeah, that seems pretty great.
So as long as you have
It
mana, you can protect as much as the board as you can physically pay for.
or at least key ones at the very least.
Yeah.
I quite like that.
So in green and red, there's not much we can do to stop a wrath, but there are things we can do to try and prevent it. Um, there are actually no, tell a lie. There's more. I found more. I've just found a whole section that I was researching. So we can have creeping reconnaissance.
Creeping reconnaissance is good.
So 5 mana, 3 green green for a sorcery. Choose a permanent type, so creatures, and
Right.
return all the cards of the chosen type from the graveyard to your hand, and has flashback to do it again.
Right. One of the protections that I was looking at, and this might already be in Ashen's deck, but one I would like to throw into the mix here is called Full Moon's Rise. One and a green for an enchantment that says werewolf creatures you control have +1/+0 and have trample. But you can also sacrifice Full Moon's Rise to regenerate all werewolf creatures you control.
That's pretty decent.
So yeah, Ashen says that one's in. Ashen also says asceticism is probably under the same premise then. So asceticism was the other one that was under my protections. So creatures you control can't be the targets of spells or abilities your opponents control. All creatures have hexproof essentially, and you can pay 1 and a green to regenerate a target creature.
Okay,
Asceticism costs 3 green green.
so it's like the instant that I found, except this one's one more to do, but permanent fixture on the board.
Right.
That seems
Yeah, I
fair.
was looking at more protection in the realm of enchantment so that it can stick around for when you need it.
That's fair. So it might be a bit overkill with the amount of recursion that we're doing, but this is what we do. The one I found was Reap the Past. So you can
Reap the past.
return X cards at random from your graveyard to your hand. It's at random, but if we're running mostly creatures, that could be a good thing.
Yeah.
It's not the best
Um,
of out of all the options we've got. It might be one of our first cuts later, but there is options out there.
sure. Uh, so one thing that I noticed, I don't know if you noticed this as well in your research, Lotus, but we're making a lot of 2/2 wolf tokens, as I saw.
Yes.
A lot of effects in the werewolf realm have a lot of 2/2s and things like that. So my thought was to add something like a uh, an elemental bond. So whenever a creature with power 3 or greater enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. Now the benefit of this is that it's a creature. It doesn't say non-token. However, these wolves are 2/2s typically when they come in. So what that told me was, well, sounds like we need a couple of lords, right?
Oh, definitely.
Um, so some of the easiest that I could think of right off the top of my head was a Domri Anarch of Bolus will do that essentially just for us for just having a planeswalker on the field. This is the one out of War of the Spark, 1 red and a green. Creatures you control get +1/+0, just as a static ability. So anytime a token wolf hits the battlefield, we get to draw a card with
And
Elemental
he
Bond out.
and he fights.
And it also has the benefit of fighting. Yep. And that's the -2 ability. Target creature you control fights another target creature you don't control. However, the +1 ability is also just add a red or a green, which is just ramping us, and creature spells you cast this turn can't be countered. That doesn't necessarily mean you had to use that mana that Dom regenerated. It's just for the rest of the turn. These
Which
can't
is
be countered.
pretty sweet. I know the tokens won't count for this, but I think that this is still a worthy include to increase the power. And
Sure.
that is the Great Henge, because it has great benefits for gaining life, giving us mana, giving us +1 counters, and drawing cards.
Yeah, Great Hedge is always a solid include. The one that I personally chose as far as an artifact to be able to give us a buff as far as our werewolves, I quite liked Obelisk of Erd. Obelisk of Erd was reprinted in the, I believe it was the Commander Legends precons, if I'm not mistaken. Or was it Zendikar Rising?
It
I'm
looks
not sure,
like
but
it's
it was
one
also
of the
in
recent
Double
ones.
Masters as well.
Yeah,
But the best part about Obelisk of Erd, it's 6 mana for an artifact that as it enters the battlefield, you get to choose a creature type, and creatures you control of that chosen type get +2/+2. So that's 2 power and toughness for all your creatures of werewolves or wolf. But the best part about this card is that you can convoke it out, meaning that those wolves that are just on the battlefield as tokens, they can each pay for one of the 6.
that's fair. See, I
So
had a
I quite like
similar
this one.
idea, except mine was Vanquisher's Banner.
Yeah,
It gives you
Vanquisher's Banner will do
+1
the same.
instead of +2, but it also gives you the opportunity of drawing a card. I think in this instance, though, they're mostly going to be humans that we call, or werewolf.
Yeah, it just depends on what we have out or what we're trying to do, I think. Because yeah, most of the time, as far as our wolves are concerned or werewolves are concerned, they usually come in as a human werewolf creature.
I believe most of them are, yes.
Yeah, and then they'll flip into full werewolves.
Another one, if we're going down the Lord route, was actually Immerwolf.
Yep.
Immerwolf
Werewolf is
is one
fantastic.
red green for a wolf with 2/2 and intimidate, and other werewolf and wolf creatures get +1/+1. And
Hmm.
non-human werewolves you control can't transform.
Right. And along the same lines, one of the creatures that I loved in this is Breakneck Rider. So Breakneck Rider is 1 red and a red for human scout to werewolf on the front side. And as with most of these creatures, at the beginning of each upkeep, if no spells were cast, then you get to transform Breakneck Rider. Well, when it transforms, it has the static ability of attacking creatures you control get +1/+0 and have trample. So that one's fantastic.
Yep.
And then it just at the beginning of each upkeep, if a player casts 2 or more spells last turn, transform it back.
Yeah.
So it'll give +1/+0 during attacks. Doesn't quite work for that. Now, however, what do you think of Rhythm of the Wild in this deck?
I already had it on my list.
So Rhythm of the Wild is an enchantment. 1 red green. Creature spells you control can't be countered. And any of the non-token creatures, which is going to be most of our werewolves, will have Riot. So you can either give it haste or a +1/+1 counter to make it work. As far as we got Elemental Bond, any of these effects that are going to do some work for us.
Yeah. See, I also had is it Fires of Yamamaya?
Fires is the one that gives creatures you control haste.
Yeah, and you can sacrifice it to give target creature +2/+2. So that might be able to save something when we're fighting and someone decides to buff it a little bit. But again, these might be cut. But if you have Rhythm of the Wild
So
and Fires, you can do the +1 counter because you already have haste.
I had a decent amount of wolf token creatures just being made, so I quite liked doubling season in this deck.
I agree that that's good for the Are we making many counters, though? I mean, I know we have Vigor. See, my thought was it's $55 dollars for the doubling season when our focus is on making wolves. So would a Parallel Lives
Sure.
be more cost effective?
Yeah, sure. We can just keep it at a parallel lives.
Like, it depends on how you build it at home, but I think if you can get away with a Parallel Lives for half... Oh my, that's nearly $50 as well now.
Yep. Josh Kovac, I wholeheartedly agree. So yeah, if we get some more wolf support in Innistrad, we'll have some fantastic cards to add here. Speaking of new cards, however, I did really like Realm Walker. So the new Kaldheim uh, Biobox promo, I believe. Uh, Shapeshifter, two
Yeah,
three. So it's a changeling, every creature type. You can look at the top card of your library at any time and cast creature spells of the type you choose as it enters the battlefield, which is going to be werewolves here. and
See,
we can just
I forgot
have
about
a
this
realm
card.
walker. Yeah, no, realm walker is great. You just name werewolves, and hey, I have no issues rebuilding anymore. If it's at the top of my library, let's go ahead and cast it.
Yeah, I put this in my Merfolk deck, and it made it so much better. And I forgot could go in a werewolf deck.
Yeah, it's not a merfolk. It is a werewolf. It is a human. It is everything we need it to be here.
What about Metallic Mimic then?
Yep.
So
Metallic Mimic is a certain.
2 generic for a 2/1 shapeshifter. When it enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. It's the chosen type in addition to its other type, so it is a werewolf. Each other creature you control with the chosen type enters the battlefield with an additional 1/1 counter on it. That doesn't mean
Yep,
non-token either, so we can choose wolves.
not at all. Yeah, I like it a lot. It's flexible. You could use it however which way you choose. And I think we need to mention the planeswalkers for wolves, right? I think they're an auto include in this, right?
But
What do you
Arling
think,
Core,
Ashton? Yeah, Arlen Cord, the original one, or even the one from War of the Spark, Voice of the Pack. What do you think?
um, oh, that's the Japanese version. I like the art on that one.
Yeah, so the War of the Spark one I'm more familiar with, but Arlen, Voice of the Pack. Each creature you control that's a wolf or a werewolf enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it. It comes in with 7 loyalty, and -2 is create a 2/2 wolf creature token.
Yeah.
Yep, Ashen's got both. So Arlen
Uh,
Cord, the Gruul one as well.
and the Gruul one is literally 0. Put a 2/2 wolf into play, then transform.
Yep, and Arlen transformed is nasty.
Yeah, you get an emblem with creatures you control have haste and tap. This creature deals damage equal to its power to target creature or player.
Yep. Yeah,
Yeah,
you if you have that emblem, you can pretty much win the game outright. So yeah.
yeah. Okay. On that basis alone, I'm taking out Parallel Lives and putting back Doubling Season because that is beautiful.
Yep. I
Uh,
mean, Arlen will give +1/+1 counters. Yeah, it's great.
yeah, that seems totally reasonable. Um,
That's the reason I suggested doubling season. If you have it, you have it. Fantastic. If not, you can always just throw in a parallel lives and it'll still be just fine.
yeah. Now,
Now,
go ahead.
I quite enjoyed one other one, which was Anara, Wolvid Familiar. This is the legendary creature wolf beast out of Commander Legends,
Ah,
and
yes.
this is a wolf beast 4/4 for 4, 3 and a green. And as long as it's your turn, commanders you control have indestructible.
Which is good for a fighty commander.
Right. So if Ulrich is out during your turn at the very least, it'll be indestructible, which I quite like. However, I was wondering how much we can actually abuse that ability with Anara out. So that remains to be seen for me.
Yeah,
Fight effects are fantastic for that, but we can definitely take a look and see.
yeah. Um, I know you were mentioning about having lots of wolf tokens.
Mm-hmm.
One that struck me was Wolf Caller's Howl. So it's 3 and a green for an enchantment. And it says at the beginning of your upkeep, create X 2/2 green wolf creature tokens, where X is a number of opponents with 4 or more cards in hand.
Yeah.
So for 4 mana, you might get 2 at the beginning of your upkeep, but if it's not dealt with and you've got doubling season, that could be 6. I think for
Yep. Could
free
be.
for free tokens every couple of turns, I think that's pretty reasonable.
Yeah, I think it goes in 4 mana for making a bunch of wolf tokens, and potentially again, if they're 3 power or greater or anything of that sort, and we have elemental bond or we can draw off it. I'm okay with that.
we
Go
need
ahead.
we need more creatures in the deck, so I think we need to focus on some of them at the minute.
Sure.
Um,
One of my favorite ones that I put aside here. I really, really enjoy this one. So it's called Gyre Reach Bandit. So Gyre Reach Bandit is two in a red, uh, human rogue werewolf, 3/2 with haste. And at the beginning of each upkeep, if no spells were cast, transform Gyre Reach. Gyre Reach turns into Vilden Pack Alpha. Vilden Pack Alpha is a 4/3 werewolf. So it trades that haste in for an ability where it says whenever a werewolf enters the battlefield under your control, you may transform it. So it
okay.
just lets you cast a werewolf. You may transform it immediately as soon as it enters the battlefield. So you can just keep it on its flip side.
I had a creature that wasn't a werewolf.
Uh-oh.
I was going to put in Ulvenwald Tracker, just for the ability of 1 and a green, target creature control fights another target creature.
Yeah,
We're a fight
seems
deck.
good.
We might as well have something that can be reusable.
So Jojo in chat says, what about Waxing Moon? So this is an instant, 1 and a green. It reads, transform up to one target werewolf you control. Creatures you control gain trample until end of turn. So that was definitely in my deck.
I like that. That can be used to close out a game.
Hand in hand with that, I quite liked Moon Mist. So Moon Mist is 1 and a green for the instant that says transform all humans, and you prevent all combat damage that would be dealt this turn by creatures other than werewolves and wolves.
That's a one-sided fog.
One-sided fog transforms all your humans into the werewolf side. Now, my favorite part to do with either Moon Mist or Waxing Moon, I really just wanted to put Isochron Scepter in for these two cards alone. So
Yeah.
Isochron Scepter would just allow you to do it over and over again. Isochron Scepter, 2 mana for an artifact with imprint. When Isochron Scepter comes into play, you may remove an instant card with CMC 2 or less from your hand from the game. And you pay 2 and tap the Isochron Scepter to copy an imprinted instant card and play the copy without paying its mana cost. So you just pay 2 for doing that ability over and over and over again.
Do you want to
You
know?
can do this with.
Do you want to know something quite
I'm sorry.
funny?
Go ahead.
Every instant we've got is 2 mana.
Exactly. So Heroic Intervention,
Tibalt's
Moon Mist,
Trickery.
Tybalt's Trickery, Waxing Moon.
I've never seen an Isochron Scepter so worth it in such a odd way.
Yeah, it's fantastic. You can throw so many things underneath this Isochron Scepter. It'll completely 100% be worth it in this deck.
I feel that, yeah. Yeah, no, I can agree with that. It's a card that doesn't see much commander play, but in this deck, I think it will be.
And for a non-blue deck, I think that this is probably the fairest way you'll ever see an Isochron Scepter used.
Yeah. Yeah, fair. Now,
Yeah, I mean, what Gruul deck is gonna come out and run an Isochron Scepter? Don't worry about it. It's not as bad. I'm not going infinite.
true. Now, you say that we can keep doing the transforming ability with the Isochron and was it Moon Mist?
Yes.
Waxing Moon. And Moon.
Waxing
Oh,
Moon
and Moon
will
Mist.
transform it. Yep, they both do the same thing. It's just Moon Mist will transform all humans,
Yeah.
whereas Waxing Moon will be one target werewolf.
So what?
But then creatures you control gain trample.
Okay. So what about Cult of the Waxing Moon? So Cult of the Waxing Moon is 4 and a green. Whenever a permanent you control transform into a non-human creature, put a 2/2 green wolf creature token onto the battlefield.
Yep.
I think that with your constant rotating werewolves, and then Isochron Scepter and Moon Mist and everything flipping everything, that's going to get some value.
Yeah, for sure. I think that if you can flip it constantly, then yeah,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure the flip sides of these cards are pretty much universally better than the front sides.
Yeah. But also on the same instance, if we were to do a lot of our fighting spells, which target our creatures, we can put in Silver Fur Partisan, which is a 2/2 werewolf for 2 and a green with trample. It's a wolf warrior, sorry, not a werewolf. But whenever a wolf or werewolf you control becomes a target of a instant or sorcery spell, put a 2/2 green wolf creature token onto the battlefield. Just creating more of those tokens.
As another Lord card, I'd like to throw in a Mayor of Avabruck. Mayor of Avabruck is a human advisor werewolf. It's a 1/1 for 1 and a green. Other human creatures you control get +1/+1. And again, at the beginning of each upkeep, no spells are cast, transform. And when the mayor does transform, it transforms into a Howl Pack Alpha.
Mm-hmm.
Now the Howl Pack Alpha will now give other werewolf and wolf creatures you control +1/+1. And at the beginning of your end step, you also get to put a 2/2 wolf creature token onto the battlefield. So these wolf tokens will come in as 3/3s. Again, Elemental Bond is going to be great in this deck.
We seem to be going very heavy on the token generation, so we might as well add in the other one. Master of the Wild Hunt.
Yeah, Master of the Wild Hunt is great.
And he is a 2 green for a 3/3 human shaman. At the beginning of your upkeep, create a 2/2 wolf. And he has tap. Tap all untapped wolf creatures you control. Each wolf tapped this way deals damage equal to its power to target creature. That creature deals damage equal to its power divided as its controller chooses among any number of those wolves.
Yep, seems pretty great. A lowly being says, I think we need a Beastmaster Ascension. I totally wholeheartedly agree with that.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and throw Beastmaster Ascension in right now.
So with the amount of wolves we're doing, so 2 and a green for an enchantment. Whenever a creature you control attacks, you may put a quest counter on Beastmaster Ascension. As long as Beastmaster Ascension has 7 or more quest counters on it, creatures you control get +5/+5. This is a very aggro heavy deck, and I'm loving it.
Yep, absolutely. Ashen says it's not a fight spell, but Moonlight Hunt has been a good removal spell. So Moonlight Hunt is another 2 mana instant. Choose target creature you don't control. Each creature you control that's a wolf or a werewolf deals damage equal to its power to that creature. So every wolf and werewolf is now dealing its power to one target creature that you don't control. Is that right?
Choose target creature you don't control. Each creature you control that's a wolf or a werewolf. Yeah, each creature, all of them, and they don't receive the damage back because it's just dealing their power to that creature.
So with all the power that we're racking up, they're all going to be dealing. So it's just an instant removal spell at that point.
Pretty much, especially under Isochron Scepter. Can you imagine?
Yeah, don't touch Isochron Scepter.
So, this one I think would be funny. Raised by
Funny.
Wolves. Raised by Wolves
Okay,
is 3
flavorful.
green for an aura. Enchant creature. When Raised by Wolves enters the battlefield, put 2/2 green wolf creature tokens onto the battlefield. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 for each wolf you control. And if we're giving
Yeah,
if we can give our creatures trample, that's going to be one hell of a big creature.
I can see that. So one of my favorite wolves that I came across was actually out of M12. It's called Witch Stalker. So it's 1 green for a 3/3 hexproof wolf. And whenever an opponent casts a blue or a black spell during your turn, you get to put a +1/+1 counter on Witch Stalker.
So we need a mana sink, and I think I have found the most on-theme mana sink there is. And it's
Oh,
Wolfbriar Elemental. Wolfbriar Elemental is a 2 green 4/4 elemental with multi-kicker. When it enters the battlefield, create a 2/2 green wolf for each time it was kicked. Now, if you've got no board state, but you draw that, you've got an instant board state again. I think
yeah.
that solves the problem of hold it in your hand and save it as an emergency regeneration of your board. So you can literally go, oh, I've lost my board, but I'm going to spend 10 mana and put 6/2/2s back on the field.
All right. So this is one you definitely have not introduced, but I want to introduce it. Uh, Rotwolf. So 2 and a green for a 2/2 wolf with infect. And whenever a creature dealt damage by Rotwolf this turn is put into a graveyard, you may draw a card. Totally just for the draw effect, right?
Yeah, there's no way that we can put something on there like where's that Oregon that makes a massive
Which one?
raised by wolves?
Colossification.
No, raised by
Ah,
wolves.
okay.
Raised by wolves.
Yeah, enchanted creature gets +1/+1 for each wolf you control. I think we found a perfect target for Rotwolf.
I was thinking we need some evasion like trample to get through when we're attacking because this is a heavy attack deck.
Right.
So what about Gruul War Chant? Attacking
Ooh, I
creatures
like
you
that one.
control get +1/+0 and menace.
So +1/+0 menace, meaning that we're going to get through. We don't even necessarily have to throw in as many attackers because we'll be getting through.
Yeah.
I like it. To go hand in hand with that, what do you think about an archetype of aggression? So this archetype is the red one. 1 red and a red for the enchantment creature. That's a 3/2. It gives all your creatures trample, and it gives creatures your opponents control. It makes them lose trample, and they can't have or gain trample. So that means that we can hold up some blockers
Yeah.
because they won't have trample, and we can chump block, but we'll still have trample.
Another way I saw to make our opponent block more carefully is
Mm-hmm.
a Mage Slayer.
Ooh, that'll do it.
So for a 1 red green equipment, whenever equipped creature attacks, it deals damage equal to its power to the defending player. So we don't care what we send, we just equip it and send it. So they can block whatever they want, but they're still going to take the damage. We might lose a creature, but if we're making that many tokens, I think we can sacrifice a few all.
Especially if they don't have trample, right?
Yeah, especially.
Yeah.
And
Another line.
if we do
Oh,
get
sorry.
through, that's just basically double damage.
Yeah, I like it. One of the ones that I wanted to throw in here was again flavorful. So Howl Pack Resurgence. I know how much you like Flash, Lotus. So this one is a 3 mana enchantment that it has Flash, and each creature you control that's a wolf or werewolf gets +1/+1 and has trample. So you could do this as a combat trick that sticks around.
Everyone's you attack with loads of wolves. They declare there are blockers as load of chumpers. Flash it in. Oh look, it's trample.
Now, Ashen, I don't know if you've come across this card, so I'm just going to throw this out here because I quite like it and I have it on my list. This one's called Descendant's Path. 2 and a green for an enchantment that reads, at the beginning of your upkeep, reveal the top card of your library. If it's a creature card that shares a creature type with a creature you control, you may cast that card without paying its mana cost. Otherwise, put that card on the bottom of your library.
Yeah.
So if we've got werewolves and it's at the top of the library, we got some wolves.
Also, going back to the reason I chose Wolfbriar Elemental as one of the cards to rebuild a board state after a board wipe. Howl of the Night Pact. So it's 7 mana. Granted, it's a lot, but when you've got nothing on board and you need to rebuild a board state, it says put a 2/2 green wolf creature token onto the battlefield for each forest you control. So late game, you probably have an average of what 7 to 10 lands, half of them being forests, probably more, seen as our green is pretty much overwhelmingly 3/4 of the deck. So that could be quite a few 2/2s back on the board again.
One more card that I really liked. I actually liked a Nightpack Ambusher as well.
Okay.
Did we already have one of those in?
No, but that does mean we don't do anything on our turn.
Well, it gives us the option.
True, and it is a lord.
Right. So if we don't cast anything on our turn, then we just get to create a 2/2 green wolf creature token.
Yeah.
And it's also a lord that gives wolves and other werewolves +1/+1.
And we can flash it in if needs be. I forget this wolf has
Yeah.
flash.
Yep. I know how much you like Flash.
I do.
A lowly being says, "Are we worried about flying creatures? Maybe gravity well or spider silk armor?" To that effect,
I
I
know.
personally was thinking.
I know what you're going to
Go ahead.
say. Whenever a creature with flying attacks, it loses flying till end of turn. Oh, Gravity Well. I have not seen this card in so long I forgot it existed. I quite like that.
So gravity well, 1 green for an enchantment. Whenever a creature with flying attacks, it loses flying until end of turn.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. But I think I know which card you're going to suggest. Is it a green?
Oh,
Is it green?
it may be green.
Okay, go ahead.
Arachnid Genesis.
Ah, it's like I already knew you.
Yeah. So Arachnid Genesis is 2 and a green for an instant, and it is to date my favorite fog effect ever. You get to put X 1/2 green spider creature tokens with reach onto the battlefield, where X is the number of creatures attacking you. Prevent all combat damage that would be dealt this turn by non-spider creatures. So any of your other blocking, shenanigans that you might have before damage, pop Arachnogenesis. It protects your wolves. It'll also protect. It will essentially give all your spiders the ability to block all the flying creatures,
Yep.
and you still wind up with a pretty sizable board state.
Oh, definitely. I need to get myself one of them because this card is just going up in price.
It really is. I got it a couple months back, and it was, I think, under $20 then, so it's gone up.
Yeah.
But I quite like it. Now, what do you think about Ashen? Maybe you could tell us in chat. How do you feel about tutoring in this deck? Because we do have a lot of options for green tutors. With the amount of wolf tokens that we were talking about here, I was looking along the lines of Court of Calling. Again, convoke for paying for the cost of Court of Calling to search your library and put in a werewolf of your choice so that it's a little bit more consistent.
I'm trying to remember the name of the card because it's just popped in my head, but it's not in my list.
Sure.
You told me about this for my Kadama deck.
Kodama.
I think it's greater good, sacrificing creatures to draw cards.
So greater good is the enchantment that you get to sacrifice a creature and you draw cards equal to the creature's power,
Yeah.
I believe.
And then you discard 3 cards. Do we have
3 cards, correct.
creatures with enough power to make that worth it on a board wipe?
Well, we do have a decent amount of lords, and then we also do have a Naeth potentially pumping the
Right.
power up. Besides that, I mean, we can throw something in like a Ronus's monument so that we're also giving +2/+2 and start up before sacrifice. We could do things like that.
I think with all of our wolves being 2/2s and lords being few and far between, I know there are a lot of them, but I think it'd be too much of a risk for reward on that card.
Yeah, I mean, I personally didn't have that one on my list because of that reason. I was kind of relying more on Elemental Bond and potentially even a Garruk's Uprising if we can get it up to 4 power consistently.
I mean,
But
even
um,
with Garruk's Uprising, that does even give us the option of having a static trample ability.
right.
Our commander is a 4/4, so I think that could actually be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would do okay. Okay, so we're at 90 cards. We haven't got ramp or removal yet, and we're only at 18 creatures. So, what do you feel?
I think we definitely need more creatures. We're getting heavy on enchantments as we usually do.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and take a look at some artifacts right now, I think. What do we think about a Door of Destinies? Not ramp, but creatures of the chosen type get +1/+1 for each charge counter on door. So that'll make some big werewolves,
True. I think I
which
was
then could
looking
go
at
hand in hand with
Urza's.
very good
Was it Urza's incubator?
incubator. Yep,
That does count as
incubator.
ramp because it reduces the cost by 2. Or should we go for Herald's Horn?
I personally like the Herald's Horn because that's again going towards the line of being able to rebuild because it's if it's at the top card of your library.
Yeah. So Herald's Horn is 3 mana. You choose a creature type. Creatures you cast of the chosen type cost 1 colorless less to cast. And at the beginning of your upkeep, look at the top card of your library. If it's a creature card of the chosen type, you may reveal it and put it in your hand.
Yep, I quite like that. Jojo says, "What about Season of Growth?" So Season of Growth is let's get 1
One.
and a green for an enchantment.
Yep.
Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, you get to scry 1. And whenever you cast a spell that targets a creature you control, draw a card. So cast ETB scry, and then cast a spell that targets a creature. Yeah, we got cards like
Our fight
we got some
spells.
instants under that Isocron. Yeah. So I think that'll work quite well.
It's going to be another enchantment, and I do apologize. I've just noticed this on my list, and I feel that we should put in a shared animosity.
Yep.
2 and a red
Definitely
enchantment.
pumping up some power.
Whenever a creature you control attacks, it gets +1/+0 until end of turn for each other attacking creature that shares a creature type with it.
Yep. Fantastic one.
Yep, that's going to make everything really big.
So shared animosity sparked this for me then. Do we add Xylortha to this deck?
Add what?
Xylortha.
Strength incarnate?
Yep.
You mean Godzilla?
Yes, but if I said Godzilla, you can't search Godzilla and it won't come up. So So Godzilla, King of the Monsters, as we all know it. 7/3 with trample, and that says lethal damage dealt to creatures you control is determined by their power rather than their toughness. If we're going the shared animosity route,
Yeah.
doesn't this make a little bit of sense?
Yeah, it doesn't search Godzilla.
No, it doesn't. That's why I said Silortha and confused you.
It's like that card doesn't exist. I like it. I actually quite like that card. I think that would work really well.
Now, I know Ashen is going to hate me for saying this, but if we're looking for some ramp, and if we're looking for some value with all these tokens we're generating, I think Kodama of the East Tree needs to be said.
This card is so undervalued.
It's so busted. It does so much work.
Well, anyone that watches me play it on stream on the Tuesday nights on Into 99, I don't have a partner for this commander because it's just so stupidly powerful.
It's fantastic.
It can be an honorary
So,
wolf.
I mean, I was going to suggest a Maskwood Nexus, and that would just make it work. But yeah.
Yeah. So for
Now,
6 mana, you get a legendary creature with reach. Whenever another permanent enters the battlefield under your control, if it wasn't put onto the battlefield with this ability, put a permanent card with equal or lesser converted mana cost from your hand onto the battlefield. So that means if Kodama's on the battlefield, you play a land. You may put another land into play. A token comes in, you can put a land in. It's so much value.
yeah. And if you can keep drawing cards with the tokens that are coming in, and you just put something down. It can do some work. It can do some work.
Oh god,
Uh,
yeah.
Ashen, what do you think about uh in this deck with all the trample and with all of the fighting and shared animosity? Sure. What do you think of Toralf, God of Fury, in this deck?
Oh,
So Toralf, 2 red for a legendary god, 5/4 with trample. That reads, whenever a creature or planeswalker an opponent controls is dealt excess non-combat damage, Toralf deals damage equal to the excess to any target other than that permanent. Now, we do have fight mechanics. We do have some removal things, right? Now, the thing that stands out the most to me with this specifically now, however, is that Moonlight Hunt. So, going back to Moonlight Hunt real quick, choose target creature you don't control. Each creature you control that's a wolf or werewolf deals damage equal to its power to that creature
oh.
with Toralf. Think about it.
So this is under Isochron Scepter. We use this and target a 1/1 with our massive amount of werewolves. Oh, that's yeah,
Spicy
yeah.
meatball.
That's insane. Wow. Yeah, that's nuts.
Yeah. So, yeah, that card specifically makes it worth it. I think just to see that go off once.
I
Good luck with all the triggers and remembering everything.
yeah.
But it could be a fun way to get rid of a scoot swarm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That said, I think that Torolf is fantastic in this deck, especially with some of these fight effects and so on and so forth. Could do some work.
Yeah.
Even if that Moonlight Hunt isn't necessarily under an Isochron Scepter, I think I would run it just for that ability to do that once.
Oh, if we're gonna do things like that, I'm gonna suggest this now.
Sure.
A Gruul Rage Beast.
Ooh,
So a Gruul Rage Beast is 5 red green for a 6/6. Whenever it or another creature enters the battlefield under your control, that creature fights a creature an opponent controls. It's not May, but I think that is actually quite beneficial sometimes.
yeah, I could definitely see that being a good way to go.
Yeah,
All right, so how far off the track have we gotten already?
we're still only at 98.
Oh, fantastic. So Soul Ring and Arcane Signet, and we call it a day?
I know for a fact that Ashen
Will
doesn't
not run a Soul Ring.
doesn't like Soul Ring, so I'm gonna say Arcane
Sure.
Signet because as much as they don't like Soul Ring, Arcane Signet does fix your mana.
Sure. And how about a Girl Signet?
Yeah.
Now, besides that, do we need any more ramp in the form of it or any other artifacts?
Well, we
So
have no
again, our
ramp at
classic,
all.
yeah. So
So I think what is it? Nature's Law.
I was gonna stick under the artifacts for a second. So Sword of the Animist.
Yep.
So Sword of the Animist, 2 mana for the artifact that gives you +1/+1 on your equipped creature. And whenever the equipped creature attacks, you can search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, and shuffle your library. So let's go to combat and go ahead and attack.
Yeah.
Ashen says that Ashen wouldn't even run rocks in a green deck. Personally, I run ramp instead of rocks. My man. That's exactly what I do as well. I will run 3 visits and everything else all day over mana rocks that will eventually just get blown up. Just give me the lands.
That's
Um,
fair.
so sure, let's backtrack off of even Arcane Signet then,
Mm,
since we're not doing Soul Ring Arcane Signet. Let's back off it fully and let's just add 3 visits. Let's
Have
add
have I already added it? That's the thing, because I did. No. Okay, so we have Nature's lore, because I'm starting to go off Kadama's Reach and Cultivate, if I'm honest.
Yep.
So, Nature's
Uh,
Law, 3 visits.
Rampant growth.
And so doing this on turn 2 is more beneficial than turn 3. Granted, if you don't have these, I'm not saying that the Kadama Reaches and Cultivates are bad. I'm just saying doing these on turn 2 are more beneficial to your turn 3 play.
Yeah. One thing of note with Ulrich is that Ulrich is a 5 CMC commander, so you're not trying to necessarily turn 3 Ulrich out
Yeah,
necessarily. So yeah, it's not quite as necessary in that sense.
I feel that
Uh,
Ulrich is not also going to be beneficial to the deck's performance. The deck would also function without Ulrich if needs be.
yeah, for sure. Now I'm looking at this. We are definitely enchantment heavy.
We are.
So Farseek is a suggestion for ramp by JoJo. I don't disagree with that as well. Um, hmm. So looking
Yep.
through this, I think that
I think Fires of Yamamaya is a little bit hit or miss.
no, really,
I'm gonna
I
uh,
like the haste.
I'm gonna remove it though.
Okay,
I
so
feel
Rhythm of the Wild is our haste enabler then.
I think that's more of a it's got more utility to it. If we need haste, we can have haste. If we don't, we still get a benefit off it.
All right. So let's go ahead and go in on this. So Wolf Colors Howl is just creating wolf creature tokens for free for CMC. Seems like a decent investment. Um, yeah. Rite of Passage. Are we doing enough fighting?
I think we can shove a few more fight spells in, but it depends if that's how we want to go.
Right. Because the thing that is nice and synergistic about Rite of Passage now with Godzilla is that it will be tougher and then it will get even stronger as it goes. So it kind of feels like a snowball effect.
Yeah, I think left unchecked, Rite of Passage could be quite dangerous. Also, if we block with our creatures correctly, that's still going to be beneficial.
Right. So I think it'll be a big dissuade from just attacking towards you in Gruul, which is an odd thing to say.
Yeah,
So in that case, do we need...
we need a little bit more removal though. You're missing some very, very, very good cards. And I'm surprised you've not mentioned Barrier Breach yet.
I wasn't even going to mention it this time around.
Nope, I'm sorry. This is a card that everyone I speak to forgets
Sleeps
even
on.
exists. It was from Ikoria, and it was one of the best uncommons ever created in Ikoria. So it was 2 and a green for an instant. Exile up to 3 target enchantments, and it cycles for 2. That's massive. It's so versatile. You can exile someone's Smothering Tithe and Propaganda, or you can exile 3 or just 1. It's at worst, it's 2 mana, draw a card. It's a wonderful card. And
What
also
do you...
Crozen Grip as well.
Yeah, I'll agree with those two.
Because split second, someone's about to combo off with an artifact or an enchantment on board. Split second, let's blow it up.
Yep. Ashen says Ancient Grudge is on theme. I totally agree with that. So it is a 1 mana, one in a red for an instant that says destroy target artifact, and it flashbacks for a green to do it again. Based
And
on the art, by the way. There's
yeah,
a different art that you gotta find for that one.
it's that little pug. I love that art.
uh, I would also suggest for this deck. So, what do you feel about a Cetizen Tactics. Setessan. So, one in a green for an instant with Strive. Cetizen Tactics costs green more to cast for each target beyond the first until end of turn. Any number of creatures each get +1/+1 and gain tap. This creature fights another target creature.
Ooh. And again, a 2-mana instant.
How do you feel about that?
I quite like that. Oh, do you know what's really funny?
Hmm.
So this doesn't say fight another creature an opponent controls.
Nope.
So if we have Rite of Passage out,
Yep.
or even Vigor,
Now you're getting it.
oh, this is going to be beautiful.
Ashen, I don't disagree with you. There's a lot of good werewolves that I haven't even brought up yet that definitely have flips and fantastic abilities. But my thought was that I wanted to include those for the deck to function as far as the good ones here, like Huntmaster of the Fells we haven't mentioned or Hermit. But I figured you had those, so this is more workshop ideas for you of what you wanted to add as far as I was concerned.
Yeah, like I say, you probably have a lot of creatures in the these are my pet cards, whereas I was more under the impression of this is what we're going to do with it.
Yeah. So
So feel free to like obviously mix any of this out, but I wanted to at least show the extent of what we could achieve. Though we're at 106 cards, so we're getting near the end of our
yeah,
suggestions.
I'm going through my list and seeing if there's anything that specifically stood out for me as far as like what I definitely wanted to include before we start cuts. So that's just
Yeah.
what I'm doing right now. Um, I'm not 100% certain, but if you're feeling flavorful enough, we could definitely put in like a sort of wolf and mill, but I don't think it's necessary for the deck.
So for anyone that doesn't know, Han now calls Sword of Body and Mind the Sword of Wolfenmill, mainly because of I told him that was a better name.
Which it is.
So it's a 3-mana equipment that gives +2/+2 and protection from green and blue. Whenever a equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, create a 2/2 wolf, and that player mills 10 cards. Hence, body Sword of Wolfenmill. I think most of the cards I wanted to suggest.
Can you do me a favor, Lotus? Can you throw in a Duskwatch recruiter for me instead of the Anara? Because I don't think that Ulrich being indestructible is necessary in this as much as I thought.
Okay, what am I taking out?
Anara, Wolvid familiar creature.
Okay. Yep.
So Duskwatch recruiter is one in a green. It's a werewolf 2/2 with the activated ability 2 in a green. Look at the top 3 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card from among them and put them into your hand. The rest go on the bottom of your library in any order. And when it flips into creature spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. So it's also a cheat some mana out,
Yeah.
cheat some value out.
Yeah, that seems fair.
So I think I quite like that one better because we're focusing more on the deck as opposed to just the commander.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Okay. So before any cuts, our mana curve is 3.39. Most of our stuff is at the 3 point, so it's looking pretty good. So I would say 36 lands is probably a little bit too high. Most of our stuff is green with a quarter red, so we can take out, say, 2 mountains.
Yeah, that works for me.
Yeah. With
Another fantastic card draw option would also be a Hermit of the Nether. I don't want to forget that one because that one's fantastic. and I think that that can get changed out for one of the other cards here. Let me find one that we can swap out and agree on. So, Hermit of the Nether Knolls.
So it's 2 and a green for a 2/3.
There it is.
Whenever an opponent casts a spell during your turn, draw a card. And its flip side is a 3/5. Whenever an opponent casts a spell during your turn, draw 2 cards.
Is asceticism doing more than, let's say, so Full Moon's Rise is a lot easier to cast. Beastmaster's Ascension will give everything +5/+5, making it tougher.
So you're saying
Don't we have?
asceticism is just an extra one that we don't need?
Yeah, I think so. Because I don't think we care about how much do we care about a creature getting removed? Because I'm thinking about, is the hexproof worth it? Because it's also regenerating for mana, right?
Yeah.
But Full Moon's Rise is giving us the ability to sack Full Moon's Rise and regenerate all werewolf creatures. And it costs way less and can stay on the battlefield more.
Yeah. I think that one would be better. We also have the instant that does this as well. So I'd say we can drop that.
Yeah, I think that's a good one to drop. Do we need the resuscitate? Okay, so green and one to cast, and then we have to pay one more mana for each one, right?
Yeah. Although that
I feel like
seems
I feel like I'd feel a lot better about resuscitate, specifically if we had something like a mana reflection in the deck. If we had a way to get a lot more mana out,
yeah. I think
I think
this
I'd feel
is
better about that.
so what you're saying this is a cut?
It's a maybe cut for me.
What
I
what we'll do
wanted your opinion on it, but
is we can put it in the maybe board because I'm not happy to completely cut this card. So
that's fair. Yeah, I was just
um
asking your opinion on it.
so yeah, I'm quite happy to
Um,
leave it on the side.
I am wondering about Howl of the Night Pack because at 7 we can get a decent amount of wolves. However, why wouldn't I just use the Creeping Renaissance flashback?
That seems fair. The only difference is this puts them in your hand, not on the battlefield.
Right.
But I understand. I know you like this. I know the Sword of Body and Mind, or the Sword of Wolf and Mill, is very on flavor, but I feel it's not something that we need.
Oh, yeah. I don't think we need it either. I was just looking at artifacts. I
Uh,
like the Obelisk of Erd and the Isochron Scepter way better.
and the Mage Slayer is just such a good card.
Sure. I've never played with it, so I will take your word for that one.
I mean, if you're swinging with a 10/10 and they go, sure, I'll block it, you're still dealing them 10.
What are we down to now?
We are at 102.
Two cards, two cards. All right.
I think Reap the Past comes out. Returning cards from the graveyard at random seems a bit hit or miss.
What do you think about cutting Arachnogenesis?
Uh,
We have a gravity well, right? That's the
yeah,
idea.
true. But just because they're not flying doesn't mean that this isn't good.
How do you feel about the creatures being at 23? Do you think that that's enough?
Well, if you need to cut a creature, I would say for the sake of the reasoning that Ashen would get murdered at the LGS, I think we can cut
Right.
Rotwolf.
That's yeah. So let's cut the Rotwolf. And I think that that's where we can call it. There are so many better werewolves as well.
Yeah,
um, there are a lot of flip werewolves that are great. That me and Lotus probably haven't even mentioned. Um, but I think for the sake of this is a decent deck.
but are you happy with this, Ashen? I know it's not exactly the werewolves you want, but are you happy with the direction that we took? Because I like to think that we can recover from board wipes and try and keep going with our aggression.
And I think that Ashen, if I'm being honest, we could probably cut a couple of enchantments as well for more creatures, which if we wanted to make this more werewolf deck, we can certainly do that. I think cutting about 5 or so enchantments and putting in 5 creatures would be just as fine. You just have to pick and choose which ones you like.
Yeah,
Yep. Moonlight Hunt and Torolf is still my favorite thing that came out of this.
I still like Resuscitate.
Sure. I would feel very good about Resuscitate if we had a mana reflection on the board, or maybe after a Kodama. Like if we had dropped 5 lands, totally.
Fair.
Not a bad situation to be in.
Yeah,
So
okay. I agree. But still, it's a good card. But if you enjoy this, check out our links. Should be down below. You can go to intothe99.com, which will also give you links to our YouTube channel. It'll give you links to our fantastic writers who do articles for us. You'll find links to our Discord channel where you can chat to myself, Han, and other amazing members of the community, such as Ashen. Also, if you want to support us, go and see our Patreon. Again, links are below. Also, our merchandise store, where don't just get into the 99, wear it. But otherwise, thank you for joining us for another episode of Brewing It Live, and we'll see you again. If you enjoyed our content, leave comments below on other decks you'd like us to brew, or how you would do this differently, or what you would put in. We'd love to hear it. And if you're building a werewolf deck, let us know how it went.
yeah, hit us up on any of our social medias and let us know if you have an idea that you want to suggest as well. Just go ahead. I
Yeah?
would love to toss those ideas, into Brew It Live and give me another challenge. I'm up for it. Let's do it.
Yep, always up for a challenge. But otherwise, thanks very much, and good night.
Have a good night, everybody. We love you. Bye.
Take care.